7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Here we are, another afternoon of fantastic sports talk in the Flower City. Welcome into the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia, we're glad you're with us. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester can be found in the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, TuneIn apps, and you can also stream our show on YouTube and Twitch, our channel, The Fan Rochester. I'm Mike Danger. Over there, that's Gene Battaglia.
Do we have the proper growth mindset today, Danger?
I feel good. I feel like we're moving in the right direction, that we are growing, and that we're taking the steps necessary. The truth window is open, and when you examine it and when you go through that truth window and you have a growth mindset, good things usually follow. Thank you. Lots of clapping.
All right.
No,
all right.
You're mocking the most sympathetic figure that exists.
I am not mocking. It's like I'm mourning. Feels like everybody's been mourning. Like, wait a second.
I want to hear from the guys, because I feel like the McDermott haters, the people that got what they wanted, are still not satisfied. They're angry. They were angry that McDermott kept his job through all of the ups and downs of his tenure. And now that he's lost his job, they're still angry because they didn't get rid of Bean on top of it. Now, we can all kind of agree that a half measure is probably not the move here, but we also don't know what Brandon Bean is capable of doing this without Sean McDermott. On the surface, and while the emotion is still raw, it feels like it's a mistake. It feels like whoever you bring in is going to be tasked with the impossibility of making it to the Super Bowl in year one with Josh Allen or else. And I don't know that that's fair to put on a candidate. I don't know that it's fair to put into whoever the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills is.
This is nothing different. Like, you and I, lots of people have talked about, all right, well, if it's not year 6, then is it year 7? If it's not year 7, is it year 8? It's not going to be in year 10. So where's the line when it comes to the close but no cigar sort of thing? Again, I keep landing on, all right, if you wanted to make this move, it would have been better just to kind of wipe everything clean and let's get something new. And if you give this a week or two to let the emotion kind of wear off, yeah.
We'll be on to the next thing.
You know, we'll be on to the next.
We got a giant, shiny new toy that's built right across the street from Highmark Stadium that by the time we get there, Sean, who? What? Wait, who? What? Who? We will be on to the next one. Now, that again, that's not to say that in the middle of the season, if it's not going well in 2026, we're not thinking, oh, God, they made a mistake. Oh, this looks different. This looks terrible. However, but there's also the chance that you have Josh Allen, and everything will be just fine.
Well, okay, that's interesting, because do we hear from Josh Allen before April minicamp? I'm asking honestly. If I had to say yes or no, I'm saying no. I'm saying he is going to distance himself from this because it's a no-win situation. What did you know? What did they ask for your input? If no, you can't say anything that is going to come off positive. The one thing I do believe, and there's various reports that there are a lot of Bills players that are actually kind of upset about this move.
Sure.
Yeah, so they're going to need some time to kind of cool off and everything else.
For sure. Yeah, and I think his reaction after that loss, Dawkins' reaction, I think it's fair to speculate and think that there were whispers, mumbles, murmurs that they knew if they lose this game, he's out. That if you see some of the reporting that's happening right now, the stories that are being unearthed by guys like Tim Graham and Vic Carucci, the OGs of Bills media, it paints a picture of the last month plus of this team was really kind of contentious between GM and head coach. Things being said. Now, we don't know exactly what's said behind closed doors. We don't know exactly what's being said in the course of a game when the owner is sitting with the GM. But if things aren't going your way and the GM has an axe to grind, you have the owner's ear and you can say things through the course of a game. In the Philly game, I don't know. I can't believe we went for 2 there. What are we doing? Oh, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And there are plenty of those moments. And much like the end of the season, don't put yourself in the position where that moment is the thing that's going to define you in that game. If you are indeed a better team, if you're Brandon Cooks, you're a better football player, hold on to the football, and we're not having the conversation about, is this a catch? All you got to do is hold on to the football, and that's a catch. But you didn't. And now everybody's like, oh, it's a catch, is it? By rule, not really. We can argue that, but you're like, hold on to the football, and we're not having this conversation. Now, I know a lot of people will always take the path of, we got hosed, we got jobbed. Don't put yourself in that position. Sean McDermott always seemed to find himself in those situations where it was a play or two that cost them a game here, a game there. And then the meltdown about the catch afterwards, to me, was unsettling. And I imagine if you're the owner or the GM, you're like, oh, that's the Hail Mary. That's the last-ditch effort.
Well, the reporting today, courtesy Vic Carucci, and credit him for coming up with this story. There's a meeting 5 weeks to go in the regular season. This is well past the trade deadline. It's the 3 powerful men, Pegula, Bean, McDermott. And Sean McDermott says in this meeting that his team doesn't have enough talent to win this Super Bowl. Kind of, that's the gist of it. Not the exact quote. How do you think that went over in front of Brandon Bean? Aren't you kind of indirectly running the GM under? I mean, that just says, okay, there was a divide at this point. That is absolutely true, and you can point to a number of reasons why that might be true. One, you're paying your quarterback how many millions of dollars, and that eats up everything else in this. We can talk about all the mistakes that Brandon Bean, but you really should be into this altogether.
It's almost like you, by saying something like that to the powers that be,
him or me.
No, if you're Sean McDermott, or I quit. Why are we even doing this? Because we are not going to get where you want us to get. We don't have it. We're not going to be there. And I don't know if that's a departure from. It feels like that's a departure in character from what Sean McDermott.
Well, I mean, I go back to the Jacksonville playoff game when you're just going way out of your way to talk about picking up Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah. That you don't do that. So. Yeah, McDermott's, but again, are those fireable offenses? Could you have worked something out here?
I would say the fireable offense. I don't have issue with the firing. Shocked by the firing. Still, I can't believe that they moved off of him. But I understand. I get it. I see the performance in the postseason. I see the way this team loses in the postseason. And I think all fans say the same thing. It's another year wasted when you have this superhuman athlete, Josh Allen. You could be the best ever, and you're wasting him. You're wasting him. I get all of that. I don't disagree with that. And at what point is enough? And I think that was it. That was the point. Enough is enough. And in your last ditch effort to save your job, it was everybody's fault but yours, the referees. Not just in the post game, but let me call the local media and make sure they hear me complain about the referees. Yeah, that's not the Sean McDermott that we knew for almost 9 full seasons. It was always, we'll learn from this. Well, the right thing to say is, we left plays on the field. We can't turn the ball over. We'll learn from this. We're going to get better. If you want to pander to Buffalo, I can tell you this, Buffalo. We're not going to rest. We're going to do everything we can do, and we're going to be back in this situation. And next time, we will prevail. I mean, you could spew that, and people could say that's BS. We've heard it all before. But doing what he did was so out of character that my antenna went up right away. I'm like, that's
not Sean McDermott.
That's not Sean McDermott.
No, that's somebody that's actually, we should point out again, on the competition committee, or was on the competition committee.
Yeah.
Like if Sean McDermott is in Arizona Cardinal gear, I don't think he's on the competition committee anymore. You can't be doing that stuff, or he's paying the fine, or whatever it is. Look, if people want to be upset about the officials, by all means, find a way to cope. I'm not telling you, I'm not waving my finger saying don't do that. Do it. If it makes you feel better, there's not another fan base that has to go through this year after year after year. But what I'm saying, and this is the most concerning part, the way this is set up, and we'll talk to Matt Perino coming up at the bottom of the hour because he put this out there today. Like, Brandon Beane was this loved figure.
Oh, yeah.
Big ball beaner with the sunglasses, and I orchestrated the deal, and nobody thought Josh Allen. I did. Bam. I got up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the Diggs trade. I'm going to make the trade for this. I'm going to sign Von Miller. Big moves. And now you're football Kevin Adams. You are football Kevin Adams, who's going to tell Terry Pegula what he wants to hear. Even worse danger, how did Brandon Beane arrive in Buffalo? From the recommendation of Sean McDermott. I don't know if they were friends or not, but you kind of stabbed the other guy in the back. You could have worked this out.
And was it Carucci that said that if Beane was going to hire his first head coach, it
Yes.
wouldn't have been Sean McDermott, it would have actually been Steve Wilkes? Okay.
Wow.
Whoa. Maybe let's not say the quiet part out loud. That's damning.
Wow. I do think those two guys ever talk again, Beane and McDermott. I'm going to say no.
That's going to be chilly.
No. Someday Sean McDermott, I do believe, will win a Super Bowl somewhere else. And thanks to all of his wins in this league, he will be in the Hall of Fame. And he will not thank Brandon Beane. And I don't blame him. I also joked today that the way people come back to this organization, just imagine this. The year danger is 2042, and 67-year-old Sean McDermott comes out of retirement to have his second tour of duty with the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, God. Yeah, of course.
They did it with Marv Levy as GM.
Of course. Yeah. You can't rule it out. You can't even rule it out. It's crazy. You made a stop on the Drake Toll show again this morning, Gino.
They called me up, and again,
Bill's expert, Gene Battaglia.
I am not a Bills expert. Well, I'm not going to correct Drake Toll on the air.
Yeah.
But then again, how can I be a Bills expert when the last time I went on Chuck's Notes was Thursday, and Gene, will they fire Sean McDermott? No, they're not going to fire Sean McDermott. That's what people don't understand. No, I didn't understand.
We also loved that matchup so much. We were so feeling ourselves after beating Jacksonville the way we did and knowing that the matchup was better against Denver than it was Jacksonville.
Dude, did any of us see this team regressing to 5 turnovers?
No, nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. And, look, nobody predicted a Denver-New England AFC championship. It's a weird year. And next year, there's going to be hope and optimism again. Next year, who looks good? We don't know. What does Jacksonville look like next year? What does Buffalo look like next year? What does Baltimore or Pittsburgh look like next? We will have the same amount of hope because of all of the turnover and everything. The cycle demands it. Demands that we have hope by the time week 1 gets here.
I just want Sean McDermott to go to a spot that's on the Buffalo Bills 2026 schedule.
Ooh.
That would, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't even
the Bills have the NFC North, and who do they have? Do they have what division in the AFC are they up against? Is it the West?
We haven't even broken the seal. Buffalo Bills.
I know it crossed my feed, and I always see it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. When the schedule comes out, I'll really get excited. But you know they're gonna play.
All right, so who do they play this coming year? So the divisional opponents coming to Buffalo, Kansas City, Chargers.
Okay, so they have the West.
Yep. And then the Bears and Lions.
So it's the NFC North, the AFC West.
And then the bonus opponent in the AFC is the Ravens.
So if McDermott, let's just say McDermott lands in Vegas.
Buffalo goes to Vegas.
Mm-hmm. He could go to the Ravens. I don't think that's likely, but he could go to the Ravens. If he were to go to the Ravens, then you would see McDermott.
That's the only way he would be coming, unless it was some sort of...
Cleveland's not on the schedule.
No.
We had him this year. Arizona's not on the schedule. They're an NFC team.
Cleveland at Buffalo, preseason opener. Who says no? If McDermott's the head coach.
There,
Yeah.
highest rated preseason game in Buffalo Bills history.
It's shocking news and endangered this. I'm trying to remember when you came into town. I think this predates you.
I moved here in 97.
Okay. Flutie Johnson.
Yeah.
Flutie Johnson, when the team's like, now we're cutting Doug Flutie. Oh, my gosh, I will never cheer for the Buffalo Bills again. I am a Charger fan through and through.
I've seen in my feed Bills fans say, I'm done.
You're not done.
I'm out. And I can't help but laugh. You are not done. You are in denial is what you are. You are not done.
No, as long as you have that sort of passion, then you're in. What happens is it's year after year after year of losing or mismanagement. See me as a Knicks fan that really I'm not carrying the flag.
You're apathetic on it.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that would be the thing I identify with. But man, they kill my soul. Like if the drought didn't take you out, then this is not going to take you out.
Well, the biggest fear I think is that after doing what they did to Sean McDermott, the last time they did something like that, Wade Phillips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which led to the drought. Oh, he loses on a controversial call in the postseason, gone. Enter the drought. Man, I hope that that's not the case. And I'm going to do my best to reserve judgment. To bring it back to the original point, it is fascinating to me how quickly Bills fans have turned on Brandon Beane. Fascinating.
Yep. Matt Perino, bottom of the hour. He'll have his thoughts on that. Boy, we got a lot of ground to cover with Matt, do we not? Also today, Mike Leone, Emmerich head coach at 425. 445, Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. Normally fantasy football, but he does this podcast with Stevie Johnson, so we'll talk Bills with Michael F. Florio. And then end of the show today, 545, RIT men's hockey coach Matt Thomas. You're also welcome to join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Yesterday was crazy busy. So before we get to Matt, let's take some calls. Linda and Webster. Hey, Linda.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I'll be brief because I know you have a lot of people to talk to. First thing, shocked but not surprised. Sean McDermott hopefully will be remembered as the guy who brought class back to the locker room. He practically patented the phrase culture and trust the process. With Brandon Beane, it's interesting that he now has the title of GM and president of operations, because personally, I want my GM to just be the GM and on the phone 24/7, watching tape, going to colleges. I don't want his attention diverted to the bigger issues about, I don't know, marketing or whatever. And I'm wondering, this is crazy, I'm wondering if he might pick his successor as GM, and then he just becomes in charge of the whole thing.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
So,
Linda, I think you're spot on there. And you don't have to worry about marketing. Pete Goelli and everybody else handles
That's right.
the business side. But when it comes to Brandon Beane, he can elevate Terrence Gray. And Linda, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. At 866-4FAN. The GM will be kind of neutered, right? Like you're going to have to run everything past Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane has more power than ever. And that's why for anybody that wants, man, the Bills should go trade for Kyle Shanahan or bring in some big personality. I don't know. Don't they want to say in the roster if you have your options out there right now? I think by making this move, it still is a very desirable location because of Josh Allen, but that would be something that wouldn't work in the favor of the Buffalo Bills if you have a head coach that's ready to have some say in personnel. Linda, thanks for the call.
This is interesting. One of our regulars from like the start of the sports bar 9 years ago, our buddy Brian in East Tilton, slid into my DMs over the weekend.
Yeah, Bronco fan. And Brian, look, congratulations.
No. But I think Brian he's kept receipts. And every year we make a big deal out of our bold prediction special.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
We haven't gotten it, but Brian couldn't contain his excitement. He slid into my DMs with his prediction from September 3rd, 2025. The Patriots win the AFC East. Where's my... The Bills lose in the wild card round.
Close.
to the Patriots and McDermott is fired. Broncos win the AFC West. And, Brian, we love you, but when we got that, I'm like, well, yeah, of course you're saying that. You're a Broncos fan. We know you think the Broncos are going to win every year because you're addicted just like we are. But the idea, and Pizza Dude stopped me too. Derek, the Pizza Dude, our director of technical operations here, stopped me and he's like, I won $300 on a prop bet with my buddy before the fantasy football season. He's a Bills fan and I'm a Patriots fan, and he said the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, and I said Sean McDermott's going to get fired. And because Sean McDermott got fired, I won $300. Like, hey, good for you.
Where can you have that prop bet in New York State, Derek? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Not trying to blow you in, Derek, but there you go. So I think there's a handful of people before the season started that could have said, if it doesn't go well, he's out. But again, it was the way it happened. Again, and now if you believe some of the reporting that's being out there, and I do, there was friction. There was friction when you didn't think there would be any friction between two guys that came to the organization nearly simultaneously.
Look, the reality is when you watch a movie, Danger, this is my analogy. Or is it simile or metaphor? I don't know. You tell me. But the ending is always happy, right? You very, very rarely do you watch the movie where Sally Albright says, you know what, Harry, you're an idiot. Go away. And that's the end of the movie. But that's life, right? Yeah. Everybody had this picture of Josh Allen and Sean McDermott holding the trophy and the confetti. And, all right, well, maybe this happens, but the cast just changed there. That's the way you're going to have to look at this.
Now, if we have a second later on, we'll get to Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard covering the Buffalo Bills next here on The Fan. Clint Kubiak is the name that is now emerged as the favorite. The betting favorite to land the head coaching job here in Buffalo. And I'm wondering why, don't shoot me for saying this, Bills fans, I'm wondering why Joe Brady isn't getting a harder look. Maybe he is, and I don't know. I'm not aware of it. But when you compare the two resumes this season, Clint Kubiak versus Joe Brady, there's clearly an advantage with how the Bills' offense was run by Joe Brady versus what Seattle was with Clint Kubiak. There's slightly, I think, greater experience with one over the other. There's a lot. You're putting a lot of eggs in a name, in a last name. In a pedigree. I don't know that the results have been there yet for Clint Kubiak.
This time last year, I'm going to back that up, December last season, Kubiak was the offensive coordinator of the Saints. The lousy Saints, Danger, who fired their head coach. Mm-hmm. But because Dad was this great guy who led the Broncos to a Super Bowl championship, coincidentally, after they fired John Fox after a 12-plus win season.
Yeah.
There's...
Well, we can ask Perino about it. We have some time here. Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard, the Shout podcast, covering the Buffalo Bills, joins us next. You can join us anytime this afternoon. Our lines are open for you at the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. It's 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
423-2946. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
No word yet from One Bills Drive regarding who may be interviewing for the Bills head coaching vacancy. Dan Orlovsky today on One Bills Live setting the timetable.
I don't think you have to rush this, but if they went into this blind and we're just going to go and cross their fingers, that's a big misstep. And yeah, then you would want time to be of the essence, but I would be surprised if that was the case.
Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady today interviewing for the head coaching vacancy in Arizona. Brady has also had a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast will join us next year in the Sports Bar. The Tennessee Titans have their new head coach. He's 49ers defensive coordinator and former Jets head coach Robert Saleh. The Amherst back in action coming up on Friday. Syracuse basketball back at the Dome tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
The person I want to hear from is Josh Allen, because I got to tell you, and I don't know this at all, but I believe a decision of this magnitude cannot be made without you getting some thoughts from Josh Allen ahead of time. So it's really going to be interesting to hear what he has to say about McDermott's departure.
Wondering if we'll hear from Josh Allen. We know we'll hear from Brandon Beane. We don't necessarily know when.
By rule, they have to give a season-ending press conference, and maybe they give this a little extra time. Maybe Matt Perino has some insight. A man that I'm sure has been working nonstop.
I don't really want to talk to Matt today. I'd prefer to talk to his daughter, because I understand she's been doing some heavy investigative journalism into the firing of Sean McDermott, Matt. And if she has some thoughts, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, she penned a 50-word column last night that would just knock your socks right off. I mean, the best part about it is I had to post it because it was so cute, but she wanted to play, and I, of course, was just super busy yesterday, so I was playing with her in between things, and she just said she wanted me to play restaurant with her, and I said, go write me 50 words on how the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. I thought that would give me the 10 minutes that I needed, and it did. She brought the paper back to me, and she not only wrote it, but she literally put a number over every single word just so she could show me that all 50 words were accounted for.
Matt, that is some great parenting on your part, and you save that forever. That will be something that if the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl someday, you crack that back out whenever it may be. Matt, I don't even know where to begin. It feels like the playoff loss is old news, but you were in the locker room. You got the sense with the emotion in the locker room and the emotion from Josh Allen. Was that due in part to maybe they sensed something like this could be happening?
It feels like, how could it not be? Because it was such an emotional locker room, and you compare it to years past, and it just that doesn't line up. Like how emotional he was, and it almost feels like this is something that was probably permeating inside the building. I mean, Vic Carucci reported that they had a meeting 5 weeks ago, and basically McDermott told them this isn't a Super Bowl caliber roster, and being in Pagula apparently didn't like that. And so if this is starting to kind of make its way around the building, that there's dysfunction at the top and it's a power struggle, then yeah, I think probably everybody knew that they were playing for their coach's job. And again, we have not heard from anybody. So everything that we have to do here is to try to project what's happening. There's obviously a massive PR battle happening between the two sides. I mean, you're seeing all this stuff start to trickle out through different insiders and this and that, and who was responsible and how much. I think there's a little bit of truth in everything. Like, I think Sean McDermott, needs to wear a lot of the responsibility for the inability to get to the Super Bowl over the last few years. And I also think Brandon has had some chances to add real weapons, and he's kind of fallen short in that department. How much was Sean involved in that? Those are all like legitimate questions that we're waiting impatiently at this point for answers, because the Bills have still not communicated when Brandon is going to speak to the millions of Bills fans that deserve answers right now.
I wasn't shocked by Josh Allen's reaction. He was emotional, and a lot of those turnovers, were preventable. They were on him. And so I got that. What did surprise me and what set my antenna up was McDermott playing the card of the referees and the blown call, and that's a catch. That's so out of character for him. It leads me to believe that he had to know this was it, that this is my last ditch effort, and if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out firing, and I'm going to say it for Buffalo. I'm going to do it in a way that is as blue as I will be as Sean McDermott. Like, this is Buffalo, and damn it, I'm standing up for Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, if there were signs even before that, I think, too, right? Like the championship roster comments from being at the deadline, and McDermott basically just, pushing that aside and saying, yeah, I love everybody in that locker room. The Darius Slay situation and how cold Sean was about all of that whenever asked. And then the Jacoby Myers love affair the week of the Jacksonville Jaguars game. Like, this was obviously a tandem that had worked so seamlessly together for years that have obviously that relationship really frayed this year. And I'm really, in hindsight, like, looking at the whole timeline, not surprised that it did. Like, you keep going year after year trying to, fit these pieces of the puzzle in, and it's just not fitting properly. You're not able to get over the hump. Eventually, you're going to start to figure out or try to figure out who's the most at blame. Is it the coach's end, where you're getting the players that they need and they're not doing a good enough job placing them in the right spots or developing them, or are you not getting the right players? And so that, to me, is the real part of this that needs to be fleshed out, is how involved was Sean with the decisions that were being made in terms of the personnel, and how much did that lead to the roster that they had this season, which that's another thing. It's like, I think across the league, the idea is that this wasn't a good enough roster to complete for a championship around Josh Allen. I think it holds up pretty well next to the roster in New England, and they're playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl this week.
Fantastic. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, Shout Podcast. Matt, you wrote about this. You have spoken about this. Like, Brandon Beane, boy, he's got some damage control. He's got an image problem. Your thoughts on how did we get here? A guy that was once wearing the sunglasses, big baller, being so beloved, and now seems like he's football Kevin Adams.
Listen, man, I come from the world of PR supremacy that is the UFC. Like, nobody does PR like UFC, I don't believe. And I was behind the curtain, and I watched it for 4 or 5 years. I mean, Dana White is one of the most polarizing figures of all time in sports. And he has a team of 17 people that handle a different part of PR, every part of PR. And I think that this just hasn't been a very good year of PR for Brandon Beane. And I think that, when you have a microphone in front of your mouth and you're being interviewed, you're not being interviewed by that person, right? Like, it can't become personal. You're talking to the entire fan base. And what really happened with that interview with Jeremy and Joe last year was that the fan base felt personally attacked, that their take on the build in the wide receiver room was just pushed aside and treated as if you're not smart enough to know what we're actually doing here. How dare you question, what we're doing at wide receiver? Just know this isn't fantasy football. Like, there was some messages sent in there that I think it was so out of character. It was so not the Brandon Beane, the big baller Beane that had been developed, that moniker over the years for his playful nature. This is the guy that goes on the Pat McAfee show and all of the podcasts and does the hour-long press conferences, that stood up for Buffalo when people were calling it not a destination. He did a lot of that before even McDermott did. When it came to standing up for Buffalo. And in just that moment and the way that it unfolded in the immediate aftermath, it's really changed the dynamic for him and the fan base. And I think when we get a chance to talk to him here in the next day or two, you would hope, it doesn't appear like it's going to be today. We've got no communication yet. He has got to repair that relationship moving forward, because I do think at the heart of it, like nobody wants to win a Super Bowl as much as McDermott and Bean wanted to, like, and Josh. I mean, it burns. Like, you've seen the passion that comes out of Brandon at these postseason interviews, and to be going at it year after year after year. He had a bad period there, and he's going to have to figure out a way, because I can't believe, guys, the paradigm shift that's happened. We know it. You guys take the calls. We're on social media. People have been in this fan base have been coming for McDermott's head and his job since the 13 seconds game, consistently. Even at the best of times, I still got comments in the podcast and messages on social media about McDermott should be fired. The reaction when he was the one that was let go yesterday, and how far of a departure from what it was even a year ago, was something.
Yeah, the half measure, I think, doesn't sit well with a lot of people. And, I don't know what next year looks like for the Bills roster. Maybe you throw Alan Lazard and Khalif Raymond in there and you hope that everything is good. I guess I'm hoping, Matt, that somebody will challenge Brandon Beane when he does speak to the media about the wide receivers, because he was wrong and Jeremy and Joe were right. And I think a lot of Bills fans that sided with Jeremy and Joe and knew from looking at it, this isn't going to be enough. Except there's one player that I think is key in all of this, and I wanted to get your perspective on Keon Coleman and the development of Keon Coleman. Was this did it become personal as far as, like, this is was it Brandon Beane's pick, Sean McDermott's pick? It feels like Sean McDermott, if you want to believe what's being put out there, had some say in some of these selections. And if you didn't fit the culture, you're out. And Keon is a likable guy, lovable guy, fun guy, big personality guy. But, man, you could question the development of Keon Coleman. You could also question the results of Keon Coleman. But was that something that was a sticking point here through the course of this year, where he wasn't active for so many weeks?
I don't know if it was just specifically Keon and him being like a stick. I think it's more like those add up over the years, right? There's been a couple of Keon Coleman-like situations, maybe never that to that extreme where he's being benched and everything like that. But the Kyer Elam saga was something else to behold too. I mean, you had coaches that did that, disagreed on how good he was or wasn't behind the scenes. That was a guy that Beane traded up for. You go back to Cody Ford when they drafted him, and Beane said with his chest that this is a tackle, and by the end of his second season, they moved him inside to guard. Like, it just always felt that for a couple of these guys that haven't worked out, there's been a disconnect between the vision at draft time and then the execution when they rolled the balls out for training camp at Fisher. So that, to me, over time too, like when there's misses and the GM is probably having to answer for, and this is just me guessing, having to answer for guys that he drafted that aren't working out, and maybe on the coaching side, the plan hasn't been executed the way they might have agreed upon. That's why I was asking at the owners' meetings and at the combine last year. I'm like, what have you guys learned about maximizing these picks based on not only the evaluation and what you think the player can be, but then what's going to be the plan to make sure they're on the field and they're ready to go? Like, you look at Deion, it's possible. Look what Deion Walker did
Great
this
year.
season.
Yeah.
Like, why is TJ Sanders having all of these issues as a second-round pick when you traded up to get him? Like, that has to be an all-in organizational idea, I believe. And again, we're not privy to the details of how that transpired and everything that happened beyond that and what led to. There's probably a million different factors, but there's just too much of that. Landon Jackson not getting a jersey, like that seems like organizational malpractice to spend a third-round draft pick on a guy. Like, you have no sense that that's going to be an issue in a year where you have to go compete for a Super Bowl. You need somebody that's ready to go right now. They could have traded up and gotten one of the safeties. I mean, Xavier Watts was like extremely productive in year one, a guy that they would have needed. And that to me is like the disconnect, and we don't have enough answers about why these decisions were made, why the players didn't work out, and maybe why an alternate decision that, all the fans that play fantasy football and do all these mock drafts, and we're telling you to go do this and you didn't do it. That's where like the disconnect comes from, and now what I feel like is a lot of the anger being pushed towards Beane.
Matt, gosh, we could ask you about what has happened. I'm going to ask you a question about what's happening moving forward here with this team. I don't think you make this move unless you think, okay, this is the guy that we want. Or maybe I'm wrong on that. Are they going to go into this with their eyes wide open and do a real coaching search and interview multiple candidates? Matt, again, without hearing from anybody officially here, and the insiders, from the NFL have been pretty quiet too. Where do you think the story goes from here?
So I think to your point, there's probably somebody I can't believe this has been going on for 5 weeks since that meeting, and Brandon Beane hasn't thought about, targets and people that he'd like. From conversations I've been having with former players, people around the league, scouts, everything, my entire network that I have, the conversation is this is the wrong year for it. That's one of the big immediate reactions to this. You go back to last year, and there were a couple of really interesting candidates, none bigger than Ben Johnson. There's no Ben Johnson in this cycle. I mean, Clint Kubiak is probably the closest to that, but he's only really had this year, 1 year in Seattle. He's kind of had some different titles and different stops, mixed bag of success. He obviously comes from a coaching family, great lineage, all that kind of thing. And he's had himself a really successful season in Seattle. And actually, I think I kind of like how throughout the season their run game has kind of improved. He's found a way to find answers at different times, and he's produced really good offensive football with Sam Darnold. I think that's not – you can do a lot worse. The two connected names to me are the most intriguing. And Davis Webb, I think, is the most intriguing because of his relationship with Josh Allen, which has been kind of discussed over the last 24 hours. How do you go and hire a guy to be your head coach that is literally best friends with your starting quarterback? That dynamic is so interesting, and maybe it would work. I was actually just on a podcast with John Feliciano, who knows them very well. Obviously, he played for them. Jumped on his show. He does it with Jamil Douglas, and we were talking about that. And he, of course, he's friends with all of them, so take this for what it's worth. But he thinks that Davis Webb is the kind of guy he's been in meeting rooms with that would hold Josh accountable. That would the friendship stuff is the friendship stuff, but it's separate from the football stuff, and he would be great for him. So that was a vote for him. Then you have the other connection, which is Brian Dable, which I think is the coolest story of all of this. If Dable, the local guy who had all the success, and really, if you want to take all parties involved over the course of Josh Allen's career, the throwing coaches, the quarterback guru, Jordan Palmer, Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, Ken Dorsey, Joe Brady, Dable probably has the biggest piece of the pie in terms of building Josh Allen into what he is today. And there's a relationship there that's undeniable. And for me, from Buffalo and being a reporter, I think the story of Dable coming and being the coach, being from Buffalo is about as cool as you get. And so I don't know. I know Dable and Beane were tight when he was here, but I also do think that Dable's hot-headed, man. Dable's a different, we saw a little bit of in New York with a couple of those different storylines. And do they believe that he can run the organization? I think he probably does. And I think, he's got a relationship with Josh that's just probably puts him in a different category if that ends up, making its way down the road.
He didn't talk about the guy that's right underneath our nose. And I know it's not sexy, and a lot of Bills fans would probably push back, but he had a top 5 offense in the NFL this year. Far better than Clint Kubiak or Brian Dable. Why are we not talking about Joe Brady in this instance?
It's a good question. I mean, I would imagine he'll get an interview. You have to wonder, he was pretty close with Sean McDermott. And, he's also very close with Josh Allen. And how that dynamic unfolds will be very interesting. He's interviewed for all the big jobs at this point that are open. I saw with the Ravens. He's interviewing with the Cardinals today. I would be surprised if he didn't get an interview. I think that there are probably hoops that would have to be jumped through for that to be the final option. But I would be surprised if he didn't get interviewed.
Last one for me, Matt. McDermott. Is he coaching next season? Where do you think would be a good fit for Sean McDermott?
Yeah, he's coach.
He's coaching.
He's coaching next year. Yeah. Yeah, he's pissed off. I mean, let's be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he were to specifically try to, go to a team where he can get cracks at the Bills. And the Steelers, the Ravens, I mean, those would be the ultimate, like, you get on the other side of this thing. Could you imagine a playoff game against Sean McDermott and he sends you home? Like, this is going to turn into a very dramatic deal, which is part of what makes this game and this sport and sports in general so intriguing. I mean, the storylines that come with all of this are what keep us so in tune with everything. But I've marveled the last 24 hours at the Sean McDermott arc and how complicated and fascinating it's all been, and his relationship with the fan base and the work that he did to really repair his image in the aftermath of the Ty Dunn story, and some of the things that some of his former players and coaches said anonymously, and his approval rating at one point in his run was, man, it was low, and he leaves here as like this folk hero. It's pretty impressive.
Yes. I mean, there's power in victimhood as well, and because he was labeled the scapegoat, I think there's a lot of people that wanted him fired that now all of a sudden see him as a sympathetic figure, knowing that Bean is still there, and Bean is ultimately the guy that had the final say on the roster, or was a part of the final say of the roster. It's complicated, but man, I hope we get some clarity when we do eventually hear from Brandon Bean. And Matt, I know you're chomping at the bit to ask him some questions when we have that chance as well. We'll find out, I guess, here in the next couple of days. You're saying when we'll hear from him. In the meantime, what are you and Ryan and everybody working at Syracuse.com that we can check out?
Man, we got a ton of stuff up over on the show. You can find it on YouTube, all the audio platforms. We have a reaction, full 50 minutes on that. I sat down with Mitch Morse yesterday for a deep dive on this as well. Some really great stories, and just I thought Mitch was great, real personal touch. This morning I got together with Mike Giannetti from SpotTrack.com to put together our 10 most bold off-season moves the Bills could make, and is a roster purge coming with Sean McDermott out of the mix? We spent about 55 minutes on that. That is now up across all platforms, and I highly recommend checking that out, because there's one bold prediction that I threw out there that I think might raise some eyebrows.
Ready for Stephon Diggs in the Super Bowl, man?
Man. That's a wild, wild story.
If we had more time, man, I wanted to ask you about that, because I still go back to that whole saga and how that ended, and whether or not there was a friction there between GM and head coach with how the player was managed and everything that went on during the end of the Diggs era.
I get wanting to keep things in-house, but I think over the course of his tenure, some of the stuff that they really tried the hardest to keep in-house is the stuff that ultimately, just makes people question everything. Like the whole Stephon Diggs divorce and how that materialized still, I think, leaves people miffed. What happened on 13 Seconds, I think we all have a pretty good idea of who was responsible, everything, but just the behavior about it afterwards is just like, there's just been some moments over the course of this regime that have just been head-scratching in a 9-year run of a lot of success.
Matt, we will be certainly reading your work, checking out the Shout Pod. Appreciate the time on such a busy day.
Later, boys.
Thanks, bud.
Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills at Syracuse.com. You can also hear him with Ryan Talbot on the Shout podcast. And we wait for Brandon Bean. We wait for the Bills to say.
Friday.
Oh, we got the date.
No, I'm sorry. That's my prediction.
Your prediction is Friday.
Right. Like, if I'm running things out there, we got to do this, but we really don't want to do this, so let's kind of bury it. Friday afternoon.
More time to prepare.
More time to prepare and less time to react. By the time everybody gets back on Monday, this isn't national news. You're not going to have talking heads. Brandon Bean is out there for the first time. You do it on Friday, and then all of a sudden we're into Championship Sunday. I don't know. Just a prediction on mine.
Robert Sala's getting a second chance to be a head coach. He'll be with the Tennessee Titans. Other coaching carousel news, we mentioned Joe Brady. He's interviewing with Arizona today. He's interviewed with the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Ravens, getting a second interview with Baltimore, as a matter of fact. And today was also the day that John Harbaugh was formally introduced as the new Giants head coach, and every Giant fan friend I have is running through walls. They are super pumped that they got their guy. And it feels like you have competency back in the Giants organization. That remains to be seen. Mike McCarthy, by the way, interviewing tomorrow with the Steelers. And one final note on the Buffalo Bills, and we mentioned Deion Walker in our conversation there with Matt Perino, named to the 2025 All-Rookie team by the Pro Football Writers of America. Good rookie year for Deion Walker, which just by size alone, when that guy was drafted, I'm like, oh, that's intriguing. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, if he were like given a clean bill of health, maybe he goes in the first round. So good on Brandon Beane and his staff that they picked him out. But I think Matt brings up some good questions. Landon Jackson or TJ Graham. Like, Graham toward the end was showing some things, but in a year where you went all in on defense,
well,
how is the return on that?
It is not out of character for Brandon Beane to turn a Boogie Basham into something else, or to turn a Wyatt Teller. You know, like if they don't fit, if they weren't his guys, we'll learn pretty quickly that they weren't his guys. The McDermott guys are going to be the McDermott guys, but if, and that isn't to say that the new head coach wouldn't like some of the same guys that McDermott might like, but we saw a lot of motion, a lot of movement when they churned this roster over when the two men took hold of it and ended the drought. And you might have to do some more of that here. There might be some more purging. And Perino's already discussing it with the guys at Spot Track. Mm-hmm. There might be some surprises. There might be some heartbreak. Get ready for it.
Well, I think, and I'll save this till the other side of the break, Perino said something very interesting as far as who might be next there, Danger. And it's a name that really I think we should explore a little bit.
All right, we'll get into that and more next. We have plenty of time for your calls and your reaction at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
9BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
No word yet from One Bills Drive regarding who may be interviewing for the head coaching vacancy or when Brandon Beane will speak for that matter. Dan Orlovsky today on One Bills Live weighing in on the next Bills head coach.
I would think younger. I would think maybe a different philosophy. And I don't know if there's truth to this, but Shefty reporting yesterday saying that there was at least a league-wide belief that in those games, the team played tight as those games went on. So maybe a coach that brings a different type of vibe in those moments.
Meanwhile, Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady interviewing today with the Arizona Cardinals about their vacancy. Brady has also had a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens. One team that doesn't need a coach anymore. They hired one today. Tennessee going with Robert Saleh. Sabres hockey tonight on The Fan. 8 o'clock the coverage begins in Nashville. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
We are back in the sports bar. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Another afternoon of fantastic sports talk in the Flower City and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, TuneIn apps, or watching on our stream, YouTube, Twitch. Follow us at The Fan Rochester. We will talk Amerks hockey with head coach Mike Leone in less than 20 minutes and more Bills with Michael F. Florio coming up before 5.
Yeah, we have time for your calls this segment, and we didn't get to everybody yesterday. So 866-4FAN, 866-4326. And when we're kind of, exploring the idea, all right, who's going to be the next Buffalo Bills head coach? And, it depends on where you look for these things in terms of the betting favorites. Some have Daboll, some have Clint Kubiak, and Clint Kubiak seemingly is the hot coordinator name right now. But then you and I did all right, where's Clint Kubiak? What's the connection with Brandon Beane? There is none. What Matt just brought up, the answer might just be right in front of us. No, Davis Webb has never called plays in this league before. But the belief is that Davis Webb will be a head coach in this league. He's the pass game coordinator right now for the Denver Broncos. He also was the backup for Josh Allen. So there's that box check. Great relationship with Josh Allen. Could he design some sort of play calls for Buffalo that would be above and beyond? He's 30 years old. Danger, when Brandon Beane's thinking, what's next? Is that the answer? What was the relationship like with Beane and Webb?
Yeah, I feel as if you're asking Josh Allen exclusively, hey, we want to hire your buddy, then that would probably check out, right? Like you would say, that's the guy we want because that's who the quarterback is most comfortable with, and that's the most important thing. The most important thing is making sure Josh Allen gets what he wants and is comfortable with the decision of who we bring in. I can't get over us just glossing over Joe Brady. The way it's going, he's going to end up as a head coach next year.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're thinking, oh my gosh, what will McDermott look like? What if Brady lands in Baltimore and then all of a sudden the Ravens take this step forward in offense and they're the team in the Super Bowl?
I mean, you could compare the numbers from Joe Brady's offense with the Bills versus Kubiak's offense with Seattle. And granted, Seattle is in the championship game. The Bills are in Aruba, or Cancun. Brady orchestrated a top 5 offense. Best rushing offense in the NFL. 3rd in EPA per play. 2nd in drive success rate. Kubiak is mid-pack in all of those metrics. Just that alone makes me wonder, why are we not taking Joe Brady more seriously? Now, there are elements to this that we don't know. We're not in the meeting rooms. We don't know how these men conduct themselves in front of a room full of professional athletes. We don't know if their message cuts through.
Well, it's also, too, what would be the business phrase of, well, you know, when Sean was here, we did it like this. When Sean was here, we did it like that. Do you really want any remnants of McDermott still on this coaching staff? I think it's just that it's that simple. If the answer is no, then Joe Brady obviously won't be back as the offensive coordinator and not even considered for the next head coach.
It's weird, but for some reason I don't even consider Brady to be a remnant of the McDermott coaching. I almost feel like he was brought in as a hired gun. He came in from Carolina where he was the quarterback's coach, right?
Danger. Like everybody is like high and wow, Brian Daboll coming back. Compare the Bills' offense when you had Brian Daboll, Ken Dorsey, Joe Brady. Okay, go look up the numbers. Go look up. When did Josh Allen win his MVP?
Joe Brady.
Yeah. When did the Buffalo Bills have the number one rushing attack? Joe
Brady. I will firmly plant my flag in the anti-Brian Daboll head coach of the Buffalo Bills campaign. I want nothing to do with Brian Daboll as a head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
He failed in New York.
I like Brian Daboll. I think Brian Daboll will be a great offensive coordinator for a team. Keep him away from the head coaching vacancy in Buffalo. And that might upset some Bills fans. It's not that easy. And it doesn't work for me just seeing how poorly it went for him with the Giants. What's going to be different? And, you know, I can make the same statement about Robert Saleh, who's getting a second chance. Good for you that you got a second chance. And now you have an opportunity to show everybody that it was actually the Jets that made you fail and not you as a head coach. But some of these guys I just think are better suited in their coordinator roles. And I don't know if that Brady fits the head coaching mold. And really all we ever heard from Brady, aside from his media availability, was Hard Knocks, right? Like, he seems like he's a young, fiery kind of guy. He's brazen. He's intense. But I don't know why we aren't having more of a conversation about the guy that was responsible for a top 5 offense this year. Well, we need somebody who's familiar with Josh Allen. Check.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we need somebody who can get more out of the run game. Check. You're not going to find anybody that's going to do better than Joe Brady did this year. They were the best rushing team in the league. Unless there's something that we don't know about his personality or your theory that you don't want any remnants of the
you don't want
regime.
any remnants. And I think this is true, right? That the big drawback of this job is the expectation. Okay, the expectation is year one, you get to the Super Bowl. Normally there's a grace period, and we love you. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going the experience route, Mike McCarthy, let's just say, for instance, you better get to the Super Bowl. Pick any experienced coach. If you get the up-and-coming 30-year-old, doesn't that buy Brandon Beane and everybody else a little more time?
I think Josh Allen changes that dynamic. I think as long as 17 is your quarterback, the expectation is Super Bowl because the clock is ticking, and now there are the comparisons. Well, Peyton Manning didn't get there until he was 30, and they had to change a head coach, and that's wonderful. That worked there. I don't know that it's going to work here. I got a bad feeling about how this is all shaking out. Really bad feeling about how this is all shaking out.
Well, the bad feeling is that not only does Beane stay, he gets promoted.
That's right.
That's the problem.
That feels dysfunctional. That feels... I mean, we can now deduce that there was a power struggle, that all was not, that there was something rotten in Denmark, at least this season. But yeah, it does feel what would be more likely in 2026 with a new head coach, that the Bills make the Super Bowl or that the Bills have a losing record and miss the playoffs.
Wow, I think it's the latter. It's the latter. Like, we're all bracing for this. Like, this isn't a quick fix with this roster that was put together by the GM. How do you fix the wide receivers? How do you fix the secondary? Hey, there's 2 starters on the offensive line that are free agents. We haven't even gotten to that part. Like, oh, yeah, and we have cap issues. You can call us at 866-4FAN. You can write to us. Our handle, The Fan, Rochester. Any writing in, like all businesses, it starts at the top. Bad owner. That's why they don't win. Like the Jets. Look who's won for the last 20 years. Chiefs, Patriots, Eagles, Rams, etc. Winning is a culture that starts at the top. Look at that stupid press release. That's not how successful organizations operate.
So right. I agree.
Yeah.
100. Who said that?
Oh, Andy.
Andy's right. It's so right. I mean, I saw that immediately. Like, we joked about the Jarmo Kekalainen release, how it looked like it was a invitation to a New Year's Eve party or something. Yeah. It was weird font and like weird design, and this had the same kind of feel to it. Like, who's proofing this?
Well, right. And look, we're not the grammar police, okay? But when you put 9, you don't put 9 like the number. It's AP style, N-I-N-E. You can't switch past tense and present tense, okay? Sure. This is high school English level stuff here. Oh, by the way, admirable and admiral. Oh, wouldn't you just say, isn't there a better word that Terry Pegula can pick? Or you're just writing this for him. Yeah. Admirable. The guy ended your droughts. That's the best word you can come up with?
Yeah.
And you can't even spell it right.
It's almost a backhanded compliment, and then you misspell it, which makes it even worse.
And they don't put it on the team's website.
And this bothers me too. McDermott put out a statement that was all class.
Yep.
And nothing from the team. Nothing from the team? Guys, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. I mean, we will send when a player gets released or when a player comes back, you'll do a tribute for him. What are we doing? That guy gave you 9 winning seasons of football, 8 winning seasons of football, but 8 playoff appearances. And you're not even you're not going to publish his
here's
goodbye?
Why. Okay, the 2 top people in this organization, Terry Pegula, is a social misfit. He just is. He's not somebody that would kind of understand that. He's an alien. And then you have the other guy who apparently has an axe to grind. I cannot wait to hear the lies from Brandon Beane when he gets up there, like, talking about Sean. Maybe he just comes up there and is honest. Like, hey, I don't know how they spin their way out of this. They've got some damage control. This fan base is not happy. Like, you had this terrible loss. You had an excuse built in with the fan base. Oh, it was the officials. Now we're way past that. And when you look at the future here, I don't know how this looks. When you're presenting, hey, this team, do they get to the Super Bowl finally, or are they going to have a losing record?
Crazy. The move feels like a mistake. Right now, feels like a mistake. Could change. But right now, move feels like a mistake. You can reach out to us on X, Elon's Twitter, at the Fan Rochester. Greg, one of our regulars. I wanted to ask this yesterday, but it was chaotic, so I asked today. Is Luke from Rochester allowed back into the sports bar?
Greg, I did not ban Luke. That was Mr. Danger, so I turned the floor over to you, buddy.
No, it's a ban. It's a ban. What are we doing? No, he's banned. No, there's no lifting of the ban. He's banned. Still a terrible call.
It was a terrible call, and I convinced you to give the guy another chance.
Terrible.
And he started off well, apologizing, and then he doubled down on, this is why I think this way.
Luke, we love you. You're still banned. No, Greg. Luke is not allowed back into the sports bar. He has been banned. What is a ban if you're he's banned today, but tomorrow he'll be fine. He's banned today, but when Joe Brady leaves the organization, he can come back in. No, he's banned. He is banned. Thanks for checking in on the status of Luke from Rochester. What a terrible call. We will get to Amherst head coach Mike Leone. We also have Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, and the Sick Podcast with Stevie Johnson. He's going to be joining us to talk more Bills and head coaching and Sean McDermott and head coaching news. And, man, so much to get to.
I'm kind of surprised, too. Like today, here's what we have for Bills news. Squadoosh.
Nothing.
Not even a name, not even a nibble. And where you and I have had to take, you don't make this move unless you know. But can we explore the option? What if they don't know?
Oh, God.
What if they don't know?
Oh, God. That's a dangerous path I don't want to explore. It really is.
Yeah, you would end up with a yes man head coach looking for another opportunity in this league, maybe their last.
Jason Garrett, do you think you can get something out of Josh Allen? Please, Jason Garrett, you're our only hope.
Wait a second. When he interviewed with the Titans, I'm like, oh, they're going to bring him in. They didn't.
I thought that would have made sense, but I think, and I've been saying this, the NFL has a type. You've had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay. Oh, you from the Shanahan coaching tree. Okay, well, we would like to talk to you. Or you look like you walked off the cover of GQ magazine.
Well, I'm all for Saleh going to that division because he and Liam Cohen hate each other.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic following those games.
Yeah, the NFL's better with rivalries. You know, Green Bay Chicago is always a rivalry. Now it's amped up knowing that you're going to have Ben Johnson versus LaFleur twice a year.
Well, and then to bring it back to McDermott, like all along I'm thinking, well, he's the guy like you want to bring to Cleveland or Arizona, and that'd be cute. Pat him on the head. Whoa, good job. You got the 8 wins this year. Pat him on the head. Like what Perino brought up is, what if he goes to Baltimore and sticks it to Buffalo?
That, if I'm Baltimore, I view that as actually like a lateral at best move from what you had with John Harbaugh. Because if you got rid of Harbaugh because of the late ending collapses, the late game collapses, and not getting to the Super Bowl, I mean, that's essentially what doomed Sean McDermott as well. For me, it's a culture-changing kind of organization, an organization that needs to shed the loser image. I mean, honestly, if you wanted to fire Aaron Glenn tomorrow and bring in Sean McDermott, if you're a Jets fan, that's what I would be pounding the table for as a Jets fan. Now you give McDermott the fuel to play against Buffalo twice a year. Oof, that would be fun.
Mike Leone's coming up. Just real quick, 60 seconds, because when you banned Luke from Rochester, it was the day after, almost 1 year ago, right? Hey, the Bills beat the Ravens, and Luke called up and was very critical of Joe Brady. He's on the line right now asking for another chance.
Luke from Rochester's on the line?
Mm-hmm.
What part of ban don't you guys understand? No. The answer is no, Luke. I mean, we love you. Thank you for listening. Your calls are not being accepted here in the sports bar.
What would be the punishment if I hit this button and I put him off danger?
You don't have that power. I have control.
You have control.
I have control of the audio on this show. You can try. Go ahead. Put him on right now. Let him talk.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Push the button.
Oh, no, it's not going to work because you have the.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Go ahead, Luke. Say something. Nobody can hear you. Why? Because I have the power. I banned you. You are banned.
I'm the bleeding heart in the show.
You are. You are. Oh, he gets his second chance. Oh, he gets a third chance. No, he's done. Sorry, Luke. Appreciate you listening. You remain the only person in sports bar history to be banned. Banned.
We had a 1-week suspension with Chris.
Yeah.
And he's fine.
Well, he's back. He's doing well.
Back,
yeah. We got to get to Mike Leone, Rochester Americans head coach. Big homestand coming up for the Amerks. We'll get more into that next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
No word yet from One Bills Drive regarding who may be interviewing for the head coaching vacancy. Everything seems pretty quiet today so far. Dan Orlovsky today on One Bills Drive sets a timetable.
I don't think you have to rush this, but if they went into this blind and we're just going to go and cross their fingers, that's a big misstep. And yeah, then you would want time to be of the essence, but I would be surprised if that was the case.
Meanwhile, Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady interviewing today with the Arizona Cardinals about their vacancy. Brady also has a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens. The Titans have chosen their man. He's Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach. Sabres hockey tonight here on The Fan, 8 o'clock for the coverage. Buffalo in Nashville. Amerks are back home Friday, kicking off a big homestand. Mike Leone joins us next. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Well, it was a stretch for the Rochester Americans that had been playing 4 games in essentially like 5 days. Wrapped up yesterday with Syracuse and a 3-2 shootout loss. But now, look at this meat of the schedule that we have in front of us here, Gino. It's a juicy steak of Rochester Americans hockey with 6 straight home games as we welcome in head coach Mike Leone. How is the team feeling after that stretch of games here that had you playing a lot of hockey in a not so long amount of time there?
Yeah, no, it was a really tough stretch. Just we knew it would be going into the weekend, especially, we play in Belleville, we go to overtime, and then, you get into Utica, just, sometimes the weather and, the border, we didn't get in till about, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We knew that was going to be a difficult game. Probably played well enough to win that game. It was the first time all year we gave up a shorthanded goal on our power play. We gave up a penalty kill goal, and that was pretty much the game in that one. And then the Belleville fought to come back, and then they won in overtime. And then yesterday it was probably our best game of the weekend. We played really really good against a really good Syracuse team. It's unfortunate 4 minutes left in the game. We only gave up 2 shots with 4 minutes to go in the third period, and they scored on a face-off play they executed, and then when you get to shootout, it's up for grabs. If you could look at the weekend 2 ways. You lose some, but like if you win 2 in overtime, you get 4 points. We ended up with 2 points, but we collected points, which is really important. I actually really liked the way we played during that stretch. Our 5-on-5 game was really good. Definitely an area of special teams right now, just with some of the guys, Consta going up. That's a huge piece on the power play. We executed on the power play yesterday, but we're playing good hockey, and you see how tight the division is. And sure, you never want to lose in overtime or a shootout, but I think we're looking at the weekend in a different light if you win those 2, or even yesterday get 3 out of your points. But the team's playing good. Give them a couple days off. It's been a grind of a schedule, and then the bodies. Jack Rathbone's out now. Komarov's out. Lousy's out. Helly's up. So it's been extremely difficult, but the guys have done a really good job of, continuing to fight and find ways to get points.
Yesterday, it's funny because yesterday Danger and I were, we were waiting for you guys to rate. Not too often we have a Monday afternoon, but with a holiday that happened yesterday. And I guess my question is so Levi makes a couple really nice saves for you in overtime. It gets to the shootout, and the shootout is, it's really kind of for the fans, right? Where, the NHL put this in. Yeah. It's not going to. But those are points that matter. How much practice time is devoted to just shootouts?
Not enough for sure. I got to do a better job of that, honestly. Like we talked about as a staff, I don't think we've scored a goal in the shootout yet. I think we're 0 for 4. And we've tried a bunch of shooters. It's an area I think as a coach, you're not that that's not important, the shootout, because you look at those games, you get half of them, you got 2 more points, and then you're in second place instead of fourth. That's that goes into it, but it's an area where, especially when the games towards the end of the year, they're going to be a lot more. You're probably going to see a lot more shootouts and overtimes, and that's an area for sure we have to get better at. Just our execution, finding guys that feel comfortable in that situation. I think we had like 9 shooters. I don't think anyone scored the game against Lehigh Valley at home. So we definitely need to start working on it at the end of practice. Just as a coach, there's so many other areas of your game, especially with the man bodies we have out right now, where we have to, really focus on our details and the way we need to play to be successful. But it's definitely an area, 5 minutes after practice, we gotta work on that.
So the guys get a little bit of rest here before the 6-game homestand begins Friday night at Blue Cross Arena. And if that 3-0 loss on Saturday night at Utica is still raw, we have a chance to avenge that loss in front of the home crowd. Talk to us a little bit about Utica here before we talk about Saturday night, second night in a row here at Blue Cross Arena, and a big night with Military Appreciation Night.
Yeah, no, Utica, they just went into Laval 2 weeks ago and beat Laval, who's 3-2. I mean, they've really were dismantled at the beginning of the year with call-ups. I think they had, I want to say, close to 7 or 8 guys, and now they got those guys back. And they've been, they have a really, deep team as far as I think you're going to see down the stretch, especially with Belleville, Ottawa being healthy, and Utica or the Devils being healthy. Like they're going to start pushing. I mean, just with the lineup they have, the call-ups, they just got 2 more guys down from the NHL. Their team is fully healthy. I think at the beginning of the year, they had a lot of guys out of the lineup, and if you look at some of their centers that they have and players that they have, the Hellmans, the Crookshanks, like these guys played 10, 15 games in the NHL this year. Now they're playing in our league, and you're going to see them be a lot more competitive in the second half of the year. And then, it's great. Anytime you have a chance to have, get this home stretch is going to be really important for our guys, just to, not have to travel and be on a bus. I feel like we've been on the bus the whole first 3 months of the year, and great night. Obviously, I'm a big, supporter of our military and those people that, sacrifice for our country. So, everybody else could, do what they have to do. And it's good. We're at home and looking forward to that night.
Yeah. And honestly, Mike, you kind of get the sense now being here in Rochester, just how much the football team, same ownership, means to me. Like, okay, now that the Bills are eliminated, I get the sixth sense that there's going to be some big crowds this weekend and throughout this homestand. Your thoughts on, kind of how your team can kind of thrive off of that a little bit here, and do you put a benchmark at all, saying, all right, I'd like our team to take 4 of 6, or how many of her points? How do you view this stretch coming up?
Yeah, no. Like I told you guys before, we kind of break up the season into segments. The 4-game, we're through 3 games. This is a 7-game segment. We're kind of, I wouldn't say behind the 8 ball, but we're 0-1 and 2 in this segment. So when you look at that, we need a possible 8 points in the segment. So we're at 2. So you're looking at 3 of 4. What our mentality is you get 3 out of 4, you win another segment. So yeah, we're, especially during this home stretch, it so happened to be that we got 4 games at home. So we're looking at these games to, 1 game at a time, but also focus on getting the points that we need and how tight the division is and how close it's going to be all the way to the end. It's really important that we start taking care of home ice.
Mike, by the time we talk to you again next week, Hershey will be on deck with back-to-back games against the Bears at Blue Cross Arena next Wednesday and next Friday. Before that, Best of luck this weekend to you and the boys. Friday and Saturday night at Blue Cross Arena, expecting big crowds. Military Appreciation Night on Saturday with Cleveland, the opponent. And we'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You got it. Michael Leone, Rochester Americans head coach, stopping by. The first of 6 straight home games for the Rochester Americans coming up here Friday night against Utica.
Yeah, and I don't know when Hellenius will be back, or if at all. I would imagine they would send him back down at some point. We didn't even ask him about Roseanne, who continues to do good things for this team. But, yeah, that was you might have missed it totally, like Saturday night. That was in Utica. Like, wow, that was just not good. So you want to make sure that you're coming out playing a little bit better against that same team coming up this Friday night.
I have a feeling they'll be able to turn it around. A couple days rest, you're back home. And this is the time of year I feel like the doldrums can kick in a little bit, the training doldrums. You have to freshen things up a little bit, and maybe that home ice is exactly the recipe that they need to turn things around here. So, again, Utica coming up Friday night at Blue Cross Arena. We'll follow that up Saturday night with Military Appreciation Night. Cleveland, the opponent at Blue Cross Arena. You can hear all of your Rochester Americans action here on The Fan. Rochester, your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. By the way, whenever they have him on, I just love that he's got the Bills helmet in the background.
Yeah,
that's
man.
our guy. I'm like,
guy.
yeah, they go out. He and Stevie are going to be on Radio Row because Stevie Johnson's from Northern California, so they're going to go up. And I'm thinking, well, what could have been here, perhaps, but maybe one of these years. But we're not talking fantasy football. I just want to get the thoughts of somebody from the NFL Network, Michael F. Florio, and it's our time to kind
of. And by the way, somebody who I want to say as recently as last week said if it doesn't go well, McDermott needs to lose his job.
Yeah,
like he predicted it. I mean, we mentioned it yesterday, being as close in proximity and kind of in the blast zone. We can be immune or numb to what's actually going on, where a lot of times the outside guys, the national guys, you think aren't as dialed in or aren't as plugged in, but they do have a vibe or a feel of something that needs to change. Same thing happened in Baltimore.
It's funny. Like, you and I were picking up things, whether that was, the Jacksonville press conference or you right away, like post-game, like that's not McDermott behavior. But I thought that emotions would calm down and everybody would. No, we didn't realize the depth of this.
Yeah. Michael F. Florio joining us next from NFL Network on The Fan.
You're listening to Leader with you everywhere you go.
All right, so while we were talking to Amerks head coach Mike Leone, the Sabres put out a little...
No, you malapropped that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, the football Sabres.
The football Sabres.
The football Sabres.
The Bills put out a graphic for Sean McDermott.
Thank you
Coach.
for everything, Coach McDermott. And the graphic reads, "Thank you, Sean McDermott." And it's a picture of him on the sideline, a picture of him kind of staring off, and a picture of him smiling.
Okay, we can check that off the list now. That's good. Okay, that fixes everything. That makes everybody feel better.
Clumsy.
It wasn't clumsy at all. No, it wasn't clumsy at all.
I love Michael F. Florio because I'm ready to talk with him out there. He's like, "Oh, I have thoughts.
All right, well, the floor is yours, my friend. I mean, for the half measure of firing the head coach but keeping the guy that was in charge of the roster, I'm sure you have thoughts. Let's hear them.
It's funny you say half measure because I'm a huge Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fan.
Same.
And I put out yesterday the quote where Mike is like, "No, I will never make that mistake again of making a half measure," because that's exactly what this is, in my opinion. Like, look, it's no surprise. People who follow me, listen to me, hear everything, know that I haven't I have been pretty vocal of saying that if they didn't get the job done this year, I think changes should have been made. I've been saying they should have considered changes since the 13 seconds because I was very fearful of that bleeding into the locker room. And to be honest, there's a lot of bad playoff exits, right? There's the 13-second game. There's last year where the last 2 years, honestly, where the ball falls through Diggs' hand, the balls fall through Kincaid's hand, but especially last year, it felt like that was going to be the year. And then there's this year, which honestly, maybe it's recency bias. I feel like this one is going to sting even longer because at least with the other ones, you could be like, well, they lost to the Chiefs. They lost to Patrick Mahomes, right? This one, the Bills were I know they turned the ball over 5 times. They still lost by 3 in overtime in a very controversial way. They should have won that game by 2 scores if we're being honest. And that is what is going to make this one sting even more. But, yeah, it's a half measure, right? Because you get rid of the coach. And I will admit, I don't think McDermott should have got another chance because he's had this long with Josh Allen in his prime and a roster. And it's the same deficiencies each year, right? A defensive line that cannot get after a quarterback in the big game. Not being able to get off the field on 3rd and long has been an issue all year long. But you know what else has been an issue? The wide receiver room, the talent on the D-line, the fact that the Bills had to rely on, thank God Trey White returned to form, but on a 30-year-old cornerback, on Jordan Poyer, who looked like he was going to be out of the league last year. Like, these were – and the fact that, one, Darius Slay, that whole led to the Jamarcus Ingram thing, which led to Max being out there in Week 18. If that doesn't happen, maybe it's Max or Ingram out there and not Dane Jackson getting burned for the go-ahead touchdown. Then you had to bring in Savage, who was brought in late in the season as well. He gets burned on his one snap. Like, the depth on this team, the roster on this team, some areas it was great. Other areas it was a huge weakness. And in my opinion, the roster has gotten further away from being a Super Bowl roster than it is getting closer, right? Like, yeah, we know what Josh is. We know what James Cook is. The O-line is great. On defense, look, Christian Benford is great. They have players. They don't have dogs. They don't have anyone that strikes any fear into you. And that's because they always go for the blue-chip, high-character players, and then they overpay them, right? They draft them, and then they overpay them. And there's a lot of overpaid players on this roster. Dawson Knox is your second biggest cap hit. He's not even your go-to tight end. Curtis Samuel's your 6th biggest cap hit. He was only out there out of pure desperation. Josh Palmer, you gave a bag to. He couldn't see the field, and when he was out there, he did absolutely nothing. Like, there's a lot of bad contracts on this team, and the Bills never have any cap space going into each season because of the guy handling the money, and yet he gets a promotion. And I know people on Twitter have been saying to me, like, well, you've been calling for this with McDermott. You could think a change was necessary and not like the way it has been handled, because for everything that I would say that of wanting change, I would also always say, like, it's because you just can't waste this window. If the Bills didn't have Josh Allen, I would have been cool keeping Sean McDermott. But you have a Josh Allen, so you need to strike in this window. So I was okay with the change. But McDermott was a great guy. He meant a lot to this team. He led them through the DeMar Hamlin incident. He got them out of the drought, like a whole bunch of stuff. You could think a change needed to be made, but also admit that the Bills handled it pretty poorly.
So, Mike, what about this as an idea with McDermott as well? Because I know it's something that I'm sure Brandon Beane and everybody that remains moving forward will have a lot. They will be selling this to the fan base, that Sean McDermott had maybe more input into this roster than we ever could assume. That the guys that were actually being drafted or brought in were guys that ran through a McDermott filter, had to be high character guys, character over talent, whatever the case may be. And I feel like there's a handful of players that you could point and look at and be like, Bean guy versus McDermott guy, Bean guy versus McDermott guy. And how much does that factor into this here as well? And moving forward, I mean, you mentioned it, 17 changes the dynamic here. The expectation, no matter who they bring in, and no matter who's the president or the GM of this team, the expectation is Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the history says that in the last 7 seasons, the Bills should have won at least one Super Bowl, if not multiple, let alone appear in one. So the fact that they didn't get there, it is a failure on everyone's part. I do feel like that is a narrative being peddled right now that, McDermott had a lot more say. And I'm not denying it. I don't know how things operate in that building. I'm not there. But McDermott was there before Beane. He already made the playoffs and ended the drought before Beane got there. So it wouldn't surprise me if McDermott had a lot of say in this. But they're also from at least in my opinion, from the Bean camp, is kind of spinning that, this was a much better roster than it gets credit for. Look at the O-line he built. Look at the tight end room. He found James Cook. He found Josh Allen. Well, the other thing that's very telling to me is how vocal McDermott was leading up to the Jaguars game about Jacoby Myers, right? And how calling him a player that changed everything, and how it really opened up the playbook for the Jags, getting someone like that. And it kind of, to me, made it seem like he was pretty upset behind the scenes that they couldn't get a wide receiver. And he joins every Bills fan who was upset with that. And I think what makes it even worse is Beane's comments from last offseason about not needing a wide receiver, and then the way he handled his press conference after the deadline, being like, I'm as frustrating as everyone else. It's fans' jobs to be frustrated. It's your job to get results done. Look, you could think McDermott is a great guy. You could think Beane is. It's nothing personal. It is just a billion-dollar business that is result-based. I don't care if you tried. Get results done. Get players in this building. And you had 2 years to replace Stephon Diggs and get a wide receiver, and you had plenty of bites at the apple, right? It's not like he ignored the room. He added Curtis Samuel. He added Josh Palmer, Brandon Cooks. The list, Gabe Davis, the list goes on. He brought in a lot of wide receivers, just none of them that moved the needle whatsoever. So why is he going to get a pass for that? In my opinion, if you're doing a teardown, you go all the way. And I will say I was a little shocked at how Bills fans, I've never seen this fandom turn on someone kind of how they have Brandon Beane these last couple of months. And Beane's got to address the fan base, right? He hasn't yet. That should have been today, in my opinion. And he needs to prove that people should trust him, because as of right now, I think I speak for a lot of the fan base where I don't feel confident coming into next season. And I wouldn't have even if McDermott was here. But I just think that this guy had the opportunity to build a roster so many years in a row. Even if McDermott had a big impact on that, he was still the one handing out the contracts and managing the books and stuff, and it hasn't been great. Look, he took a shot at the Rams after they won a Super Bowl. The Rams might win another one before the Bills even get there. I don't know. Sometimes what he says and stuff like that, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Bringing the heat, Michael F. Florio, the Sick Podcast, NFL Network. So, Mike, this is the coaching search none of us were expecting, and many people don't want, but here we are. The Bills need to hire a coach. So kind of a two-part question here. What do you think the Bills will do? What do you think they should do?
I don't know what they are going to do. We heard reports that we were going to get names today. That hasn't happened yet. I don't know if there's a full plan in place because I think a lot of them were expecting to be preparing for a game this week and not a new coach. So that we're going to learn more, I think, as we go. What I would do, because to me, and this is the other thing, right, with the Bills, like you waited last season. The last 2 years were such strong coaching cycles. There was Mike Vrabel. There was Mike McDonald. There was Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson. And, like, Ben Johnson to me was the obvious one that I really wanted and everyone wanted. But they didn't. They gave McDermott another chance after last year. And now it's a really weak coaching cycle. Like, there's no slam dunk coordinator. There's a lot of retreads out there. I don't think there's one singular coach that moves the needle, but I do think there's a lot of really interesting pairings. Like I love the idea of pairing a Brian Flores whose defense puts up masterclasses, which is one thing I don't think we could say about McDermott. In the regular season, sure, we had some McDermott masterclasses, but in the playoffs, we haven't. Brian Flores has proven that his defense can be physical and force turnovers and keep points off the board. But I think you pair him with a good offensive mind, someone like a Mike McDaniel or a Brian Dable, get those two psychos together and let's see what this could be. So to me, there's no one singular candidate, but I do think there's enough good coordinators on both sides where if you pair two of them together, I feel good about that.
Michael, let me ask you about a coordinator who's taking a lot of interviews and who had an offense that was top 5 in the NFL. Do you consider Joe Brady an attractive option for the Buffalo Bills? Or if you're Brandon Beane, do you want every remnant of the Sean McDermott coaching staff gone from the seat? Because from where I sit, Brady checks a lot of boxes that you'd be looking for in an outsider.
So he does, and I think he'll get an interview. Me personally, I don't want to go that direction because, like you said, then it's kind of just like running it back from this year. Same offense. I think part of the wide receiver struggles are scheme-based. And Stevie Johnson on our pod talks about it all the time. He says you could have had – like there's a reason why Stephon Diggs faded in the second half of 2023 after Brady took over. There's a reason – why none of these receivers have worked out. In his opinion, he said you could have threw an A.J. Brown on this team, and it wouldn't have mattered because he struggles to scheme downfield. So I do worry about that. And more than anything, look, I know the last 2 years it's worked. James Cook won the rushing title and everything. But you have a all-time talent at quarterback. I don't think the Bills should be one of the teams running the ball at the highest rate in football, which they've been the last 2 years. I think it should be a little bit more pass-centric. And I also worry about Brady worked as a coordinator. Will it work throwing all the responsibilities and all the pressure? Because all the pressure that was on McDermott is just going to get transferred to the next head coach. And I do have some concerns about – because then what is the defense going to look like? Like, who's he going to bring in? I have a lot of questions there. Maybe that's the route they go. Maybe that's Beane's guy. But I kind of think – and it's what I feel about with Beane as well. Like, if you're paring it down, go all the way. Don't just getting rid of McDermott and bringing back everyone else isn't really going – it's going to make changes, but I don't think it is the move to get you over the top.
A sick podcast. So is the plan still intact then for Radio Row coming up, Michael?
Unfortunately, I will be there. I know Stevie's going to be there, but the Bills sadly will not be there. And we were talking last week about like all the cool things and opportunities we would get to do if the Bills were there and how much fun we would have. Look, I'm still going to have fun. It's the Super Bowl, right? But one of these years, the Bills, maybe next year when it's in LA, the Bills will come out here and they could stay with me and they'll be out here in LA. But I don't know. I thought, I'm not going to lie, fellas, I thought this was the year we were going to get the Bills in the big dance.
Mike, enjoy that time with Stevie because I think it's just a matter of time before he ends up on the Bills coaching staff. He's been campaigning pretty hard.
I'm pushing for him. I've said it all year. I don't understand why the Bills don't use him more. He's your favorite wide receiver's favorite wide receiver. Like, he might not – Stevie doesn't go down in the same class as, like, Randy Moss or Jerry Rice with the all-time greats, but he's one of the most influential route runners of all time. And there's so many wide receivers current and in past years that look up to Stevie and watch his tape. And he's worked with so many young players. I know he's been in the ear of Keon Coleman at times. So, like, I to me, it feels like an asset that they're not using. But, yeah, get him as – he was saying to make him a veteran, like, practice squad player, get him as a wide receiver coach, do something to utilize that one of the greatest Bills of all time. And to me, it's proof that, like, you don't need to win a Super Bowl to be a legend in Buffalo, right? Like, this fan base, they respond to different things than other fan bases. And the fact that they're turning on one of their own, like Bean, to me tells me a lot about how they're feeling and maybe about the person. I don't know him, but this fan base pretty much loves everybody, you know?
Michael, as this can't be the last one today because we're going to have more Bills news here at some point here. So I'll connect with you. We'd love to have you on, especially when you're out in Santa Clara for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll keep coming on as much as you guys need me to. I always love joining the show.
Appreciate that, Mike, and enjoy your weekend. Championship Sunday. It will be a little bit bitter, a little bit raw, but it is still one of the best Sundays on the sports calendar.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, it was a catch by Brandon Cooks, and if it wasn't a catch by Brandon Cooks, it certainly was DPI by Riley Moss. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on Sunday.
All right, Michael. Appreciate it. There's Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. Wasn't a catch. I'm sorry. You hold on to the football, and then it's a catch. Didn't hold on to the football. Not a catch.
Okay, well, then take a look at it, though.
Yeah, I did. He didn't hold on to the football. He didn't survive the ground. I think just a lot of people, when you look at the rule of what a catch is, it sucks. It sucks.
It's a flawed sport.
It sucks.
It's a flawed
I hate it.
sport.
I hate that it's so litigious and you have to look at the rule of what a catch is. But one of those little subheadings is like, oh, you have to survive the ground. What does that even mean? It sucks. I hate it. But it is what it is. And what is that code for? It is BS.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is BS. Always appreciate Michael F. Florio from NFL Network stopping by, talking some Bills with us every Tuesday here in the Sports Bar at this time. Happy hour is here. And, man, we have plenty of time. If you want to get in, if we didn't get to you yesterday, unless your name is Luke from Rochester, 585-8664-FAN, 866-4326.
And even Luke called, and he still couldn't get through.
That's right, banned. Join us for happy hour next, and we get to a round of shots as well. More on the way in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
You're listening to the Sports all-in-one app. Listen to The Fan Rochester everywhere you go. In the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. The sports leader. The Fan Rochester. WROC AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Very quiet today in Orchard Park. No news regarding the Buffalo Bills coaching search. Dan Orlovsky on One Bills Live weighing in on the Bills' next head coach.
I would think younger. I would think maybe a different philosophy. And I don't know if there's truth to this, but Shefty reporting yesterday saying that there was at least a league-wide belief that in those games, the team played tight as those games went on. So maybe a coach that brings a different type of vibe in those moments.
Meanwhile, another interview for Joe Brady today. This with the Arizona Cardinals. Brady also has had a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens. The Tennessee Titans have their man. He's former Jets head coach and 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. Sabres hockey tonight here on The Fan. 8 o'clock our coverage begins. Buffalo in Nashville. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Happy hour in the sports bar. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening on your radio at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Maybe you're on your mobile device or connected Bluetooth. Well, you can get us in the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. You can get us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've even got the video stream up and rolling for you now on our YouTube channel and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. It was something that one of our favorites, the icon, Catalana, said earlier this week. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, you know, McDermott being let go, McDermott, the soul of the organization, who spent a lot of time on that aspect of the job and what it meant to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And for Terry to decide that Bean was going to stick around and McDermott was going to be out, harder to replace a guy like Sean McDermott than it is Brandon Bean in that regard.
Oh, yeah. In terms of the culture and what it means to be a Bill and the respect around the league, it's all going to be different. I'm starting to come around on the idea is what would the Buffalo Bills, what would Brandon Bean want? Like the idea that, hey, let's back up the truck here for Kurt Signetti, or let's trade for Kyle Shannon. That's not happening. He's going to want a guy he can control. And I keep coming back to a guy like Davis Webb, 30 years old, has a relationship with Josh. You just kind of eliminate that objection there. Somebody that can jumpstart this Bills passing attack and work with whatever receivers are out there. And if it doesn't work here in 2026, well, he's 30 years old. We're making progress to that.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
What we've all been waiting for, tomorrow, 10 a.m., live from One Bills Drive, Terry Pagula and Brandon Bean will speak to the media. Do we have to go back to the Rex dismissal for the last time we had Terry in this setting? Rex and Whaley?
We're going to carry that tomorrow.
10 a.m.
What's your schedule? Honestly, I think we should come on right after that.
Yeah. Well, at minimum, if you're tied up or you can't, we'll get the best moments of that, the moments worth sharing, or we'll just replay the whole thing tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. I give him credit. I thought, all right, Friday afternoon news dump. This is the most anticipated press conference since when?
I think since the Rex firing, right?
Even the Rex firing.
That was so sloppy and so clumsy, and I wasn't privy. And
well, that was after. Gosh, gosh, I'm trying to
Was
remember.
that was
Whaley? Yeah,
that was
Whaley,
Whaley,
yeah.
but that was also wasn't Terry a part of that press conference?
I don't think so.
No.
No, it was just Whaley up there flailing.
Oh God. All right, now I'm nervous. I'm nervous because if Terry is speaking, I'm nervous.
Oh, they're practicing right now. Role playing. Here are the questions. Pivot here. Pivot to this. Pivot to that.
Yeah.
Oh, they're yeah. And honestly, you know what? You made this decision. I don't need him to. I don't want you practicing at for a press conference. I need you finding the next head coach. Honestly, but they are required to do this. I'm actually stunned that Terry Pegula is actually going to be up there.
Yep.
Unless he's up there just to say, hey, we want to get it right. Here's Brandon. And he walks off the
or
stage.
give the endorsement of Brandon Beane as if everybody that's listening to his voice is just going to nod in approval. Yes, Terry. Yes, of course.
Could they be that tone deaf?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they're that tone deaf to think that the media isn't going to ask real questions. Unless, I'm sorry, but there's a certain section of the media that's actually paid by the Buffalo Bills. Unless, hey, let's start off here with Matty Glab. Matty,
yeah, okay. That's fine. But you will have – there are enough guys that have been on this beat long enough, guys that we've had on the show, guys that we respect, that won't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Ask about the wide receivers. Ask about the roster construction. Ask about who you're looking at, why this makes sense, why the half measure. Yeah, Brandon Beane's got an image to repair, and I think there's a lot of Bills fans. This is a step in attempting to do that. It could help ease that process. It could also be, guys, we don't have palm trees and we have high taxes here. I don't know if you.
Right.
It could be disastrous.
It could be.
It could be disastrous.
Yep. This is the way they just one simple line: Terry Pegula and Brandon Beane available in the Bills media room
tomorrow, 10 a.m. Tune into the Fan Rochester. We'll cover it.
Fantastic. 866-4FAN, 866-4326 is, a week unlike one we've had in quite some time. Craig and Ron DeCoit. Hi, Craig.
Guys, it's getting crazy out there. We got a media conference tomorrow. Yay! I'm trying to look at this from a very macro view. Love Sean McDermott. This is something – the guy had, 8-9 years cracks at the apple. He has had one of the best quarterbacks in the league, top 3. And it just never happened. There is a point, Josh is not getting any younger. He's a defensive head coach in every single postseason loss since Houston. This defense has allowed 27, 30-plus points. You got to help him at some point, and it never came. I mean, even the end of the second half against Denver, what are you doing? Play prevent deep. Just make him force a field goal and kneel down. That's all, and it's 13-10 or something. And I just kind of sat here I love this guy. He's been a great ambassador of Buffalo. But when the brass tacks comes, you have an opportunity to put an offensive guy with Josh now or somebody else to change this vision while we still have time. I'm not thrilled Beane is still here, but it always felt like McDermott had a sizable role in roster construction. That does not absolve Beane at all for not drafting another wide receiver or some of the construction of this roster. But I'm not going to fully sit here and pretend McDermott didn't have a role in that. So I just want to make that clear. So it's difficult, but this is a fan base that for years has called for the guy's head, and now all of a sudden, just because Beane got a promotion, well, honestly, get Kubiak out of Seattle, get me a wide receiver in the draft, get me Alec Pierce, and I guarantee half the fan base or more is going to be like, okay, let's go on to next year and let's go. I'm not trying to make it that simple, but you still got Josh. You have a great opportunity here. Let's not just throw it out the window because the guy we really liked and, embrace Buffalo probably needed to go, and this is now the time, and it wasn't the cleanest way to do it.
Terry, great call.
Yeah.
Great call. And I agree with pretty much everything you said there. It was time. It was time. I'm not against the move, but it is funny how he became the sympathetic figure, partially because of how he went out, doing this for Buffalo, damn it. And the guy that you could tell, there was a power struggle, and he lost out on the power struggle.
Also, too, and I can present this as fact, this head coaching job by McDermott in 2025 is better in comparison than to some other years. It just is. And he did as well as he could with the injuries and with the lack of talent at certain positions.
The thing that Terry brought up that I think will be sold to us hard tomorrow during the press conference and moving forward was just how involved Sean McDermott was in this roster construction. And I get it. You're the head coach. You've built a culture. You've got a certain type. You want a certain type of guy. We joked about it. Like, oh, he likes that guy because he's an underdog. He likes that guy because he's an undrafted guy, or he was looked over at college, or he came from wherever. He's a wrestler. Whatever it is, right? He had a type. We knew he had a type. And a lot of those stories are great stories. But some of those guys aren't great football players. They're just okay. They play with a lot of heart. They're good, not great.
What you're saying is true, but what I want to hear tomorrow, if you can get everything back on track, it'll be painful. The high road. Take the high road on everything. Do not avoid the temptation to say Sean wanted us this. Just when it comes your way, say nothing but positive things about Sean McDermott.
We won't get anything but the high road tomorrow. It will all be high road
But
tomorrow.
even in that regard, what you're suggesting is not the high road. That's not the high road to say, hey, this roster, Sean had a hand in.
I know that they won't come out and say it, but if you really pay close attention, you might find clues. And I think we've already seen that there are thumbprints all over this roster of Sean McDermott. I think there are clues already on this roster that he was more involved than I think a lot of people actually know.
Dude, if they have Terry Pegula answering questions, that hasn't happened in the time we've been doing this on the air. In this sort of setting, if he's up there, that can go spectacularly wrong tomorrow for Buffalo. It really could. And he's the owner. Maybe he feels like I have this responsibility, and good for him. Brandon Beane, he's a shark. He's going to be able to pivot. He will, at the end of this, you will say, I think Brandon has a point there. Yeah, okay, we're all in. He will do that to you. Mm-hmm. He's an excellent salesman. Mm-hmm. Terry Pegula sometimes can't put two words together. Mm-hmm. Terry Pegula, once upon a time, said a racist joke that nobody has footage of. But honestly, it did happen. Like tomorrow, the risk of Terry Pegula being on a podium, you'll think, oh my gosh, this guy is so out of touch.
Yeah, I interacted with a sports bar listener this weekend who after the loss wanted to know, why hasn't Terry Pegula spoken? Why? Why has he not shown any sort of accountability towards this result? And to that sports bar listener, that faithful listener, I will say, you got your wish.
This is all I want to hear out of Terry Pegula. Ready? He gets up there, and it's something he reads. To Bills fans, to the Bills Mafia, we want to win a Super Bowl, and we're doing everything. And now here's Brandon Beane. That's all. That's all. If he starts to
he's going to take questions.
He's going to take questions. And you know what, Danger? It's either going to be really, really bad if you're a fan, but for us in our business, it's going to be spectacular.
We should clarify. What I've seen is that they will speak to the media. I don't know that Terry will directly take questions.
No, this is Terry Pegula and Brandon Beane available in the Bills media room. If you're available,
you're taking questions.
You're taking questions.
First question.
Why are you so pissy?
Yeah, you are.
Why are you so pissy?
Well, I have faith that tomorrow will be, at minimum, entertaining. And maybe we feel a little bit better afterwards. You're right. Beane's a sales guy. He's slick. He's smooth. Got a lot of players here because of it. And maybe he can win back a fan base and get some of his image. It's been tarnished. Maybe he can get some of his image back with his words and follow that up with some actions this offseason. Terry Pegula speaking. That's buckle up. Buckle up. And I say it all the time. I said it before they fired something, to be careful what you wish for. If you were somebody wishing for Terry Pegula, you might not like what he has to say. But we'll hear it tomorrow. And I'm sure they're doing their prep work now for it. Today was probably all prep work. We were supposed to hear some names today, right?
Well,
that was one of the.
I guess the day is not. That was the Rossini report. We would hear names. I haven't heard anything.
I mean, I keep seeing Vegas odds. I see plenty of names on the list of, who's favored to come back or who's favored to come to Buffalo. But so there you have it. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be listening to the Fan. Rochester will carry the Terry Pagula, Brandon Bean press conference, 10 a.m. Do you think they're on time? Better be on time.
Absolutely not.
Damn.
Like, the question is, like, they say 10 o'clock. Will it actually be 10:15? 10:30?
I don't like that. Let's get to a round of shots next, Gino.
Big night for baseball, Ryder. We've got that coming up. We've got another NFL story about a player that, okay, maybe they're not going to be in trouble with the law. Good for them. NBA, we had a game last night. It was actually pretty good. Something I got to ask about Mike Danger, though. Are you related to the woman? Well, we'll get to that.
Okay. Oh, boy. Might want to hide the kids for the next segment.
What are you talking about?
We got a round of shots coming up next, and we could go off the rails. We have time for your calls as well. Last call is where you can have the final word in the sports bar at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Call Mike Johnson at 585-423-2946. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
We'll hear from President GM Brandon Beane and the owner Terry Pagula tomorrow. 10 a.m. press conference has been called. We'll carry that live for you right here on the Fan Rochester. Today, quiet in Orchard Park. No news regarding the coaching search. Dan Orlovsky today setting a timetable.
I don't think you have to rush this, but if they went into this blind and we're just going to go and cross their fingers, that's a big misstep. And yeah, then you would want time to be of the essence, but I would be surprised if that was the case.
Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady interviewing today with the Arizona Cardinals about their vacancy. Brady also has a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens. The Tennessee Titans have their man. He's Robert Saleh. Sabres hockey tonight on the Fan, 8 o'clock for the coverage, Buffalo in Nashville. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, the Fan Rochester.
Listen to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Fan Rochester.
So let's start off here with some NFL news, Danger. Former Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel, this according to Tom Pelissero, has withdrawn his name in the Browns head coaching search. McDaniel, still a candidate for the head coaching vacancies, both with the Ravens and the Raiders, and the Chargers are holding out hope that he'll take the OC job there.
I don't know if I want Mike McDaniel as the head coach of my team. There, I said it.
What? You don't want somebody who makes it sound like he's
smart. Yeah. I get it. He's an offensive-minded guy. I get it. He had a year in Miami where Tua was the guy, led the league in passing, and, man, you got something out of that guy? Pretty good. I don't think he's well. I don't think he's well. I do not. Not well enough to be a head coach.
No.
OC, sure.
Not in Buffalo. I don't want him here.
Agreed.
Coming up at 6 o'clock, it's the big reveal. Who did baseball writer elect to the Hall of Fame this year? Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones, they stand the best chance of getting the needed 75% of the vote to get in. Cole Hamels, a first-timer. Manny Ramirez, now in the 10th and final year, not looking good last year, only 34%. The Veterans Committee, or whatever they call it now, they already put in Jeff Kent.
Yes, Jeff Kent is a strapping man. He's great to us, and he was always very, very pleasant whenever we went to talk to him in the clubhouse. But these other guys, forget it. They're not getting in. We have the power, and we'll keep a player like Manny Ramirez out forever.
There was no proof that Manny Ramirez did any PEDs, and he does have many stats that would warrant him.
He never talked to us, and when he did, he was very mean to us. He was rude. He's expletive laced, and I can't believe you would suggest that we would vote him in.
No, look, I would suggest that really Jeff Kent's agent, is he kind of slipping you some money for the vote there?
You have zero journalistic credibility. I get it. You don't understand what it means to be a journalist or cover this wonderful sport. It's been erased like a blackboard, but has marked time in our country. I can't believe you would suggest that. This whole thing has been a disaster. I'm never going back on the Fan Richmond ever again.
You know, I have new headphones, Danger, and like whenever you play that sound effect, that just comes across much more loud.
Yeah,
now.
It's stereo. It's crisp. It's full. It's baseball writer.
I think it's homemade too.
It could be.
What that sound effect you play. Florida State Attorney has dropped a misdemeanor charge. This for trespassing against Vikings receiver Jordan Addison. According to the police report, security at the Hard Rock Cafe and Casino asked Addison to leave repeatedly. He wouldn't before being arrested at 3:42 in the morning.
So this is one of those things when the story came out, I think that's exactly what we said we thought would happen. Like, how are you getting how are you getting caught trespassing at a casino that's open 24 hours a day? What is that? Oh, you're not leaving when they're telling you to leave. Okay. Well, that's good news for Jordan Addison. He does not need any more trouble with the law.
No, good news for Viking fans, and probably Kelce or somebody will Addison get in trouble with the law here before we get to next season. Jimmy Butler not good for him. He tore his ACL last night. This in a win for Golden State against his former team, Miami. Problem for the Warriors, they're not going to get ROI on this. Butler making $54 million this season, $56 million next season. Right now, Golden State in 8th place of the Western Conference.
Completely forgot that Jimmy Butler was at Golden State. Does that make me a bad sports fan? Completely forgot.
Golden State is on fumes right now.
Right.
It feels like, yeah.
And so is Jimmy Butler. I just like completely forgot. For as great as that run in Miami was when they eliminated Giannis and the whole thing, like, where he can just turn it on. Like, I completely forgot that he ended up in Golden State.
And that was the drama this time last year. We'll get to Giannis and the trade deadline, I'm sure, coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Fun championship game. Indiana finishing the season 16-0. Curt Cignetti, the head coach, cracking a smile. He also cracked open a cold one. Quote, "It was the best beer of my life, and it made me want to have another."
So, I don't know. How did this go down for you? Because for me, I went into it thinking Indiana's a wagon. They're going to roll Miami. It was a good game. It was tight. It was tight, meaning like only a handful of like splash plays. Like it was well defended. You could just tell that like both of these teams were the Mendoza touchdown in the fourth quarter, the 4th and 5. That's the play that'll stick with me. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's the first overall pick in the NFL draft. I know that the Raiders, I know that Brady was there and all the Raiders guys.
Mark Davis was there.
They're all checking him out, and I think he's a nerd, but in a good way. Like, I think he can be a winner in the way that Jalen Hurts is kind of a nerdy winner. Not in a Tebow way, but maybe closer to a Jalen Hurts kind of way but he's obviously very bright, very articulate. He doesn't come off as your typical college football player.
He comes off as Tim Tebow with a better arm to me. Honestly, that's the way that's the vibe I get from this
Dude
thing.
already went on his LinkedIn page and made sure he put national champion in his list of achievements today. Day after he wins the national championship, got to update the LinkedIn profile. I mean, the guy has no reservations. I kind of dig it.
But
I'm curious to see how it all shakes out for him.
Cignetti's getting the credit, but shouldn't people be talking more about Mark Cuban?
That's the guy.
That's the guy. And that's why, like, this isn't a one-year aberration for the SEC. Like, Big Ten schools have alumni bases that have money.
I forgot about Cuban. Like, when we had Kent Sterling on, and he kind of tipped us off to how well Indiana has done with their collective, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. It's like, oh, Cuban. Yeah, Cuban. And Cignetti's look, good coach. He's there, right place, right time, had success before he got there, making the most of the opportunity. A 16-0 season? Come on, that doesn't happen. We witnessed something unbelievable, and now everybody wants to say, all right, who's next year's Indiana? Who's next year's Indiana going to be? Is it going to be Missouri? It's like,
just follow the money.
Well, not only that, but think about it. Like, Indiana was historically the worst program in college football. So there is no other who's the next Indiana. We won't see this happen again.
Well, I bet we will.
What, Kansas?
No, we just don't know where. I mean, you could have Northwestern. All of a sudden, you have a few alums that get their danger. This was a trivia question we asked. All right. Besides Michigan and Ohio State, who was the last Big Ten school to win the national championship as a Big Ten school? I'm not talking about, hey, Nebraska or USC. No. As a Big Ten school, who was it? You have to go back to 1966, Michigan State. That's
Penn State.
Didn't do it as a Big Ten school.
You're right. Wow. Go say it again. Who was it?
So the last time a school other than Michigan and Ohio State from the Big Ten won a national championship,
Michigan State
in 1966.
Well,
this is great for college football, by the way.
And next year it'll change. There'll be modifications that we already have heard about, and I don't really care. I think it's going to be totally fine. Unbelievable season for Indiana Hoosier football. Congratulations to Curt Cignetti. Don't go to the NFL. Stay where you are. Keep cashing those Mark Cuban checks. the devil you know, right? Like, I'd take the money from that billionaire over the billionaire owners in the NFL and keep doing what you're doing in Indiana. And I also saw that Mendoza's brother entered the transfer portal.
That's right.
Going to Georgia Tech. I want to see we'll see him in the ACC.
Finally, Mike Danger, are you any relation to Abella Danger?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, sure you do.
No, I have no idea.
Of course, I'm being cheeky here because I know you're not, because Mike Danger isn't your real name.
What? Wait, says who? Was somebody going to tell me? This is shocking.
Well, is Abella Danger really Abella Danger too, though? I'm guessing not.
I don't know who she is. Can you clue me in?
Abella Danger is an actress, an adult film actress.
What?
Who also happens to be a big Miami Hurricanes fan.
Oh.
As the Hurricanes were mounting a comeback attempt last night, ESPN panned to her in the fourth quarter, and they kept the camera on there a little long, so knowing that maybe the director knew who she was, but they didn't throw up the chyron. But if you know, you know. They also did this in the opening playoff win against Texas A&M.
They can get away with it because Brent's not in the booth.
When you're a quarterback at Alabama, you see that lovely lady there. She does go to Auburn, I want to admit that. But she also Miss Alabama, and that's A.J. McCarron's girlfriend, okay? And right there on the right is Dee Dee Bonner. That's AJ's mom. Wow, I'm telling you, quarterbacks, you get all the good-looking women. What a beautiful woman.
Wow, AJ's doing some things right down in
So if you're a youngster in Alabama, start getting the football out and throw it around the backyard with Pop.
You know, they were doing that 2016 trend. That cut is from 2011. 15 years ago, Danger. We do that today. I'm worried you play that right now, we're going to get in trouble.
Herb Street's in the booth, so he learned his lesson, right? Like, how does it play out in 2026? It's Herb Street and Fowler, right?
And they see it, and then they can't.
Fowler's like, I can't place her. She looks familiar, but I can't place her. Kirk, any idea?
Well,
never seen her in my life.
Well,
no idea.
That's a Miami Hurricane fan that's excited about this comeback. I didn't realize this. You're saying she was dating or dating?
So I don't know, like, what the this actually got brought up in. You heard me talk about my neighborhood before. I've talked about the guys in my neighborhood
once or twice.
before.
Yeah.
The animals were texting during the game last night, and one of them brought this up. Who is they screen capped it, sent it to the group, and pointed it directly at the guy who has a reputation for maybe enjoying the adult arts. And he's like, don't know who that is. Never heard of her. And I wanted to chime in. Yeah, me neither. Never heard of her. No idea who she is. I know we share the same last stage name, but I don't know who she is. No idea. The rumor, I don't know if this is true. The rumor, Carson Beck left Georgia to go to the U. At the time he did that, both he and his girlfriend were kind of like early pioneers in NIL. They were getting a lot of NIL money.
One of the Cavender twins, right?
Right.
Okay.
From the women's basketball team. And they broke up shortly after he moved to the school. And if there's a rumor that she might have been the other woman, I don't know. I mean, Carson Beck, if you're going to get into the NFL, dude, you're going to have to learn how to read the D, okay?
Well, if there's where did Jimmy Garoppolo go to college? He didn't go to Miami, but he did the same thing. You don't remember that story?
I remember when Jimmy Grapes was he in San Francisco when he was dating a porn star?
Yes. Yes. And open about it, too. Yeah.
Like, hey, all right, cool. Big fan of the U and other things associated with the football program, apparently. JD in Webfield. Oh, that must be the Webster Penfield. I like that. That's like East Rochester. Thanks, JD. Sending us a tweet at AKA Mike Danger. Curious to know what you guys think about this. If Kim Pagula was in good health, would this have gone down any differently?
We'll explore that tomorrow. We got to get to Matt Thomas here. So,
all right, Matt Thomas, RIT men's hockey coach, joining us next on The Fan.
Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We're going to have some hockey coming up Saturday night at the Policini. RIT back home against one of the rivals. Niagara coming in and be joined by head coach Matt Thomas of the Tigers. Matt, appreciate the time. And, going back to last weekend, I guess during every hockey season, you're gonna have some lulls, right? And is that just kind of the best way to kind of explain what happened against Canisius? Thanks for your time. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I think you hit the nail on the head. We I was mentioning to somebody we came out flat, and it's not like that's the only time we've done it, but each game we've come out flat. We've been able to really kind of find our legs and get to our game, get to our identity quick. If we had a slow start by the midline of that first period, we kind of started buzzing, right? We started getting going. We just couldn't find our game on Saturday, and until the third period. And then the third period, by that time, it was a little too late. Just not enough clock to kind of work back. And you credit Canisius; they played a pretty solid game against us. And looking back on it, we had a pretty good meeting talking about it with a lot of the upperclassmen, and we just left so much on the table in terms of how we play and what our expectation is. To expect to win doing that is probably a little bit of fool's gold. So for us, we know what we need to get better at, and we're working on it.
Yeah, at Niagara. Now this is a team like Canisius chasing you in the standings here. When you look at this opponent, Friday night being out at Dwyer Arena, Saturday night being here in Rochester, what does your team have to do here, Matt?
Well, we've got 7 games in a row against the 8th, 9th, and 10th place teams in the conference. So those are 7 games that we need to accumulate as many points as we can. We're getting into that stretch run, right? For us, we want to be playing our best hockey through February. The only way you do that is you find a way to play really good hockey at the end of January. So it's no disrespect. Everyone had us picked and tabbed to finish in that bottom 3. And we're looking to prove people wrong, and so are the teams that are currently in it, because one of them wasn't. Those are preseason polls, so nobody really cares about them. But I think the great thing for us is they're games that, based on how teams have played, we should win, but nothing's guaranteed this time of year as teams are really finding their stride. So we got to make sure we just get back to our winning habits, and I'm confident our leaders are going to do that for us.
Yeah, Kurbacek, Friday night from Canisius, I've read your comments, heard them that, all right, that those games will kind of happen. Didn't make it through the whole way through Saturday. So your level of confidence right now in your sophomore goaltender, Matt?
Yeah, it was less about him. Obviously we have a pizza, from a defenseman guy, right? And the guy that's basically a breakaway. The guy makes in tight, so it happens quick, right? Nobody, including Kurbacek, expects it. And then the second one, we have a puck on our stick and we clear it right to their guy. Those are going to be tough for any goalie to get across on. Again, it was, some brutal plays by us. Usually when you pull a goalie, it's for one of 2 reasons. You think he stinks or your team does. And that one was our team. And we hoped it sparked. And hey, at the end of the day, maybe he didn't have his best game going. But again, he's been so good for us. So we're confident that where we're at, he's at, we're fine. We certainly have to elevate our game and our level of detail.
For AI says, by the way, serving up a pizza for folks who don't know, hockey slam means making a bad central pass that the opposing team intercepts. So Matt, even we can also learn something from you today that having pizza is not a good thing when it's talking about defense. Matt, appreciate the time as always, and we will see you Saturday night for the earlier start, 5:05 against Niagara.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Again, looking forward to watching our team get back to the way we know we're capable of playing.
You got it, Matt. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Danger, did you know that phrase?
I don't know. I think that phrase maybe is more new school. I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
But that's fine. I like that. Serving up a pizza. It's good. If you missed any of today's show, the Odyssey app, you can go back and listen. You can also find us wherever you get your shows. Search out the Sports Bar. Guest appearances listed for you there, including Matt Perino, who was fantastic covering the Buffalo Bills for Syracuse.com. Our YouTube channel, our shows stream live every afternoon. You can go back and watch any part of the show that you may have missed. Tomorrow is exciting. Terry Pagula and Brandon Bean speaking at 10 a.m. We'll be back on the Fan at 10 a.m. for that press conference. And we'll hear from the icon, Mike Catalana, tomorrow afternoon in the Sports Bar at 3:25. BetMGM tonight. Big noise on the way next. Have a great night. The Fan Rochester.